Cool. I think we'll probably touch upon that as well then. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we are live and we are good to go. So I believe we'll start then. Uh, hello everyone. Welcome to Qween's platform. Welcome. This is our one of our first series, and we are going live along with Shruti Mishra. Shruti, welcome aboard. We are very excited to have you here because we want to discuss more about how women in leadership roles have progressed. And no better person than you because you have been since over a decade now in HR domain, helping women, also progressing your own career in leadership role. So I would love to know more about you first. Give us a quick brief introduction, and then we will go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Neha. I hope I'm audible. You can hear me, right? Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to your platform. It's always a pleasure to share my personal journey and also talk to women who might be either in the similar phase or, wanting to enter a more advanced phase in their careers. So, very briefly, I have, like you said, been in the corporate world for about 10 years, and it changes you to a large extent in the way you function overall. I've largely been in the HR domain. My expertise kind of revolves around talent management, organizational development, employer relations, um, basically a lot of things that fall under the HR purview. And I think one thing that has really worked in my favor and in my entire career is that I don't shy away from taking responsibilities and new challenges, because the world is constantly evolving around you, and if you fail to um, raise your hand or just grab that opportunity, it will just bypass you and go to the next person standing next to you. So that has worked in my favor, and that is one advice I give to everybody, whether they are reporting to me, not reporting to me, doesn't matter. If there's any woman who comes to me and I'm having a coaching conversation, this is something that will evidently go from my side, that don't wait for people to come and give you opportunities in your hand. You have to just grab it and take it and make it your own.
Right. I think I completely agree that women need to take that seat at the table, right? That's the whole conversation about that. We need to grab that seat before someone else takes it. However, we should also help other women to take up more seats at the table because right now it's more about 90%, 90, even more than 90% male in that boardroom. And then we have about few women. So how do we help other women to actually encourage to get those leadership roles and to be there at that table?
Um, like I said, I think the world right now is constantly, or it has been male dominated for quite some time, right? And the equation is only changing now, though the pandemic did set us back by certain points. And I can throw numbers here and talk about things which may or may not make sense right at this point, but um, a large part of women not being in the boardroom is not just because we don't raise our hands, but a lot of social constructs that also fall into place there. So like you said, women supporting women is a big deal. If you do have a place of respect or a seat at the table and you believe that you bring value to the table, I think we should take steps to expand that table, make space for another chair there, make the table a little larger rather than pushing that person out of the scene altogether. So I think as women, and I don't blame women here, we've been brought up in such a way that we are told to be competitive with other women, and I'm speaking from a very personal aspect, right? But it happens in the workplace also, and to a large extent. So it's a very conscious decision to kind of bring more women at the table, and we need to be conscious. And it's one woman changing another woman at a time, so it cannot be a massive movement at once. Even if that one woman makes a change, it's going to be, let's say, a domino effect, and it's it's
Right.
it's going to come into picture anyways. So
Yeah, so actually, that's, I mean, in terms of what we do at Qween is exactly that, right? We try to help one woman at a time to get that job, to get that skilling training done, and eventually get them, eventually, hopefully, get them financial independence, right? So it's
right.
one person at a time, and eventually it goes to the domino effect. Now,
Yes.
obviously, not everybody's reached to the board level, right? So we start from the grassroots level. So, what advice would you like to give someone who's just starting out or wanting to restart? Where some advice that you would have got, maybe which has helped you to progress further, you know?
Mm. Um, I think in my career or in my profession, I talk to a lot of women either who are restarting their careers or have taken a short break. It may be for multiple reasons, right? It may be because of family, it may be because they want to take care of their parents or whatever it is. Um, I just want to tell them one thing, that just when you're taking a break doesn't mean that you there is a full stop to your abilities. It's not that. Yes, the world changes every day, and whenever you're taking a break, um, even if you have like a hour in the day, make sure that you're keeping yourself updated with what's happening, right? What's happening in the world around you, and it may not be related to your subject matter. And let me be very honest, I think when women come back to the interview space, they feel that people are going to bombard us with questions related to the work, the profile, and all of those things, but that's not true. Organizations are becoming more and more empathetic towards some of these situations. So what they want to look at is the person ready to come back to the workforce, right? Are you ready to take up challenges? Are you ready to pull that 8 hours or 9 hours of shift that is required for you at the workplace? Whether you're working from home or you're working from office, doesn't matter, but are you ready to contribute? So I think my advice is basically that, and this is my personal opinion, related to the number of interviews that I do. Women tend to undersell themselves to a large extent, right? We don't understand our own capabilities, right? We don't have a view into what we are really good at, and that makes us undersell ourselves even when in interviews, right? And um, it's very important that we pull out those things even as interviewers. But my advice is, try to write down your skill sets and try to oversell. Don't oversell, don't undersell. Be like a balanced approach, but don't hide what is there for people to see, right? Really, women need to work on selling their skill sets to an extent that they not just land the job, but they know they're going to excel at it. So that is something I wish somebody would have told me in the past, when I was giving my interviews. And I really want this to go across to people who are listening, that never undersell yourself. I think another thing is, always showcase that you have a growth mindset. You're never, you will never shy away from learning new things wherever you are. So two things which are really important to kind of portray and put across when you're returning to work, you've taken a break, or even if you want to, you're interviewing for a role which is higher than the role that you are currently functioning at. So
No, that's a totally a valid point, and I actually came across this study where there was a comparison between men applying for jobs versus women, right? So women will apply for jobs only if they think they're 100% match, or maybe even 120% match, versus for men it would be, even if it's 70-80%, they will still go for the job, go for the interview, and take a try at it, right? So I think that's where the difference is. We want to be absolutely sure, which is in a way also a good skill, because we are making sure that we are doing the best at what we are doing. But we should not lose the opportunity for the fact that because we are not good enough. So we need to
yes.
give ourselves that credit and still take that risk and apply for it.
Let me
You
be very honest, Neha. Nobody is looking for somebody who's 100% right for the job. Everybody is looking for somebody who's at least a 70%. So even if you're going with that 70%, and men have that confidence to go and just talk. And by the way, we are living in a society which is which is shammed into meritocracy, right? We believe in running towards perfection as women, which is an absolute myth, and it is something that we've been brought up with. So it's not something that cannot be corrected with time.
Yes, I completely agree with that actually. And you touched upon the point where we have to have a growth mindset, right? So skilling or learning new things is part of that mindset. So what ideally you would suggest, as in to for women to do while they are either looking out or maybe looking for a career change, so that they have a better shot at it.
See, growth mindset doesn't mean, so I'll tell you something. And maybe you may already have this as a part of asking this question, but um, women have always been told, at least I have been told, and I'm going to speak from personal experience, and I've heard this so much that it's like a saturation point for me, that women should get mentors, they should get mentors, they should get mentors. And I'm like, why should we get mentors? Like, you never tell men that you should get mentors to kind of grow up in that leadership position. It doesn't happen. Why should women get mentors? So and I'll touch back on the growth mindset also. The point is that women learn from people around them, right? You observe things from people around you. And when I say growth mindset, I mean that you should be open to listening to people around you, open to learning from them. Like, there is a mentality where after we reach a certain position, we just feel that we are excellent at what we do, we don't need to be corrected at a certain level, and that is a wrong mentality. That is a fixed mindset, right? Even if you are not taking up courses or trainings, which is a matter of fact, especially in technology, in the field of technology, I think it's very important for everybody to kind of keep evolving with what's changing. Today it's data analytics that's revolving around the world, tomorrow it might be something else, right? So learning from courses or trainings is one thing which everyone should definitely invest in. A lot of people stop investing in themselves, right? An organization will only invest like 20% of your learning. The rest of the 80% belongs to you as an individual. And a lot of us make that take a backseat during our careers, which is not right. uh, by growth mindset, again, it's not just about the trainings, it's about listening to people who have more experience than you, or who do not have more experience than you but are coming from a different mindset, different organization, a different thought process. So make sure that you're listening to them and trying to understand, if even if you're not in the right, even if you're not okay with their beliefs, at least observe that fact. Like, keep it with you, because it might be useful at some point or the other. So that's my only advice to people there.
Is this, do you think is this is part of networking as well, that you might want to be around people who are someone who you can look up to and actually learn from them? So we as women, I don't think spare time for networking as much as the counterparts do, right? Like they can have their uh, after work dinner, or hours which are spent for networking, although it's casual. But for us, we have to go back home and get things done or take care of our family back home. So how do we prioritize, or how do we do this to make all of this work? Like, are there any tricks, hacks which can make us prioritize these things?
See, networking is very important, especially if you are trying to grow in a corporate world. And a lot of things which are networking related are also built in such a way which are more friendly towards the male population as compared to the female population, like you said, right? And you took certain examples which we very fondly call as structural barriers of movement for women, right? And these are structural because there are many things that either women don't feel comfortable to go to, or they have certain things back at home which they need to take care of. So it has to work both ways, honestly, if you ask me. The leaders, especially male leaders, need to be more inclusive when they are planning such events, right? If they are planning drinks, or uh, let's say after office catch up, it's a dinner or something, you need to be cognizant of the fact that you have women leaders also around you. So instead of a dinner, you can do a lunch. Instead of going for after drinks, you can do the drinks later if you want to. But you're including the women, and if they are not comfortable, then they are not comfortable in that setting. And women also need to, let me be very blunt here, that if women have spouses, or if they have a support system at home. Now, there are two different categories. There are women who do not have a support system, and there are women who have a support system, right? If you have your spouses, you have your parents, you have somebody to take care of your children, or whoever is there back home, you need to utilize that, right? Because what is the end goal that you're trying to reach here? Are you trying to build your connection so that you can go forward in your career? Then you need to give up some sacrifices. And it's difficult for women, to be honest, because we come with so much of guilt. I think we are born with so much of guilt in our system, which kind of gets compartmentalized over a period of time. It's either parents, in-laws, kids, husband. So many things start happening in our lives at a later point, and um, we are kind of wired to feel that guilt. But uh, I think as you grow, and if you want to grow in your career, you need to take certain steps backwards. For example, make sure that you have a support system at home. Make sure that you go out for that occasional dinner with people, right? And of course, like I said, it works both ways. If you are not comfortable, then go up and speak and tell that, I want to join for this particular event, but I can't because I have this thing going on at home. And as much as you think that people are going to judge you and lose their trust and faith in you, I think you'll never know unless you actually take that step to go and have a conversation. And let me tell you that when women do that, they also pave the way for other women to come and lay down their concerns when it comes to anything. So either you be that trailblazer, or you let someone else be the trailblazer, but at least someone has to come and talk about it.
That's a great point, actually. And I think when now that the clients or the companies are much more inclusive and open to the idea of getting more diverse workforce back into the game, and or like we are, I believe, at the best time of our. If we compare ourselves from 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and I believe with the change that is happening, we are even going to get better from now to another next 5 years. So it is definitely evolving over the years, and that's why we say that skill yourself and make sure that you are ready for those jobs which are going to be open right now, because India is also in the center of everything right now, right? So what skills do you think women should be ready with, if because there will be opportunities coming in the technology, in all the segments that we have. So any key skills as an HR leader you are, any key skills that women should focus on who probably are looking to just skill themselves and eventually get those jobs?
This is a very difficult question because it kind of depends on the category of women that you want to focus on, right? um, I think uh, in terms of skill set, if I just focus on technology per se, right? um, there are many skill sets which have evolved in the last 5 years, and if someone has taken a career break for the last 5 years, let's say to bring up their child, or maybe they were going through some kind of health reasons because of which they took a break. And this holds good for both men and women, actually. Today, in this day and age, I think we find people taking breaks for medical reasons also, right? um, some skill sets which you can evolve. And I'll tell you one thing: never lose touch with the people who are actually working right now in the workforce, because that will help you. Today I can tell you some random things which may not even be relevant when you are actually applying for a job, right? But this is where networking comes into the picture and your friend circle comes into the picture, because when you're talking to them, you understand that what are the skill sets that are relevant right now, and then you can start investing in those instead of doing random things because you just Google search that data analytics is very common these days. So today I'm going to do data analytics course. It's not easy to just pick up a random skill set and start training yourself on it, right? And by the way, LinkedIn is a great platform to connect with people, even if you do not have a strong connections from your corporate before you took the break, right? There are many people out there who will definitely help you out to figure out what is the skill set. And by the way, people should also understand what is the kind of role that I want to apply for in the future. Is it going to be in HR? Is it going to be in technology? Is it going to be in communications? Should I look at legal? What is it? So, basis that, I think, find your contacts and then figure out what are the skill sets that are relevant now in the market, and then do some trainings. Otherwise it's just beating around the bush kind of a thing.
Want to look at when you are hiring? There may be like
Neha, if you can hear me, then I think I've lost you.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So, everybody who's watching, sorry, and can you please share questions in case any questions that you would like to ask us? In the meanwhile, what I was asking Shruti was basically what are the important qualities that you look at while hiring, right? Any specific skill sets, or how do you assess candidates? So maybe our audience can also know on how to get that interview done or how to get that right job.
I think we've done so much of back and forth on job descriptions, right? And I am very pleased to say that organizations now have reached a phase where they are making JDs which are very gender neutral in nature. So initially that was not the case. A couple of years back, I think 5 years back, everybody was still contemplating for jobs. And I think going back to when you said that men apply for that job even if they're 70% ready, but women wait for this. That's where it kind of cropped up from, because job descriptions were built in such a way that it made women feel that they are not capable enough to do the job. So when I am interviewing for a certain role, I think it depends on the role. If, let's say, it's a leadership position that I'm interviewing for, I have a very similar set of questions for both male and women candidates. And that's because at the end of the day, I think a lot of times we are not interviewing for the role. We end up no, looking at the person as compared to the role. So we need to be conscious, and I've worked on this myself a lot, right? And that's why I'm very confident when I say this, because when I leave the bias outside the interview room, I know how much I have worked in my head to leave that bias outside of the room. And it's not just a male female bias. There are a lot of biases which kind of come into play when you're talking to the person. For example, somebody who's going to speak like very fluent English will definitely crack that interview better than the person who might be speaking English which is not 100% correct, or the person who's listening to you doesn't feel that it's correct. That's also a bias, because we are overlooking the content. You are selecting style over structure, you're selecting charisma over humility. So those are some of the biases that I have myself fought and kind of, about 80% overcome at this point, because it's a constant battle whenever you enter that interview room. Apart from that, I think for women leaders, I look at the same things. I look at humility. I look at if you are adaptable to change, if you are flexible enough to look at change in a positive way. And another thing I think I look at is accountability for women. And another one more thing that I look at when I'm speaking to women candidates is if they can, keep an emotional distance from the people who report to them, especially in leadership positions. And I'll tell you why. Because um, in leadership positions, women will be categorized into two parts. It will either be somebody who's an ice queen, or it will be somebody who's a mother. Why? Because if you are being very aggressive at the workplace and you're not at all, somebody who comes across as someone who people can talk to, and you're not, coming across as empathetic, then people will label you. And that doesn't happen with men. Nobody labels, says that, he's behaving like a father, but people will say they're behaving like a mother because she's mothering me. Those instances are coming into the picture. So I think one major thing that I look for when I have women candidates is if they can keep that emotional balance, right? You can kind of understand that I need to lead these people, but I also need to keep an emotional distance from them. So that is one major important thing that I look for in a leader.
That's a great point, actually. That because we as women become tend to be emotional in our own ways. So definitely, that's something to for women to be careful about and be sure that we are able to, bifurcate between what's personal and what's
Correct.
professional, and make sure that we are able to lead the way. Now, just coming to because we are promoting and wanting more women to back in the workforce. How do you think work from home, and how do you think COVID has changed this work from home scenario and work from anywhere scenario? Right? Do you think this really helps women, or it's really a act? Because there are two ways to this. So there are some people say that we've just gotten more work because of home and office, and some people say that there's a whole lot of flexibility. I belong to the other bit, where I believe that there's just become so much of flexibility available, and we should take advantage of it. So what is your perspective on it?
I think I belong to the first bucket where it's more work at home. And to be honest, I think I've had conversations with people who have fallen into both these buckets, right? And I think, and let me tell you, that's also because everything was happening at home, right? It was, uh, you had your parents, you had your in-laws, you had your children, you had everybody sitting there, and you had your office work and your housework, which was never ending to some extent. So while it has brought a lot of flexibility, and I would say that work from home is an essential part of today's workforce, and irrespective of the gender, it needs to be there. And I'll tell you why. Women need to be in the workplace also. So I would not recommend women, if at least the office is functioning, if you have an office space, then everybody should go to the office space at least for 1 or 2 days in a month, or in a week, or whatever it is that you come to conclusion. Why? Because you need to network and collaborate with people, right? um, People who do not see you tend to forget you, and that's irrespective of gender. So I wouldn't say that women should take a back seat and not go to their office spaces. They should go, but organizations should give flexibility as and when required to people. And now it's easier, by the way, because children have started going to school. There are daycare options available. There are options available for women to work from, let's say, some of these office spaces which are like freelancing, right? You can go and work. But I have met women who are falling in both these categories. So they do want to come to the office space because it helps them switch off from their home for some time. It's about office, the work that they're doing, meeting up with their colleagues. So that helps them switch off from home for some time. And then there is the other set which really enjoys working from home because it gives them so much of flexibility to complete all of their tasks in a timely manner. And those women are really good at time management, by the way, because I'm horrible at it if I'm sitting at home. So I know that I would rather function more well when I'm working from office. So there is no right or wrong. I think the flexibility option is important because it helps you um, deal with everything that is going on in your life at once, and it's not just bucketizing it into office space and home space. So flexibility overall is important, and that's what COVID has changed. It's changed mindset of leaders and organizations, and work from home used to be a privilege before. It no longer is, and that's the important change that COVID has brought about in workspaces. And it's a positive change for people who do want to work. But and to be honest, it's never that women are not working, right? Women have always been working. It's either at home or in the office. It's just that the work is either unpaid or underpaid. So COVID has brought that mindset change that people can bring in the same amount of value wherever they are working from, and that's important.
Right. I think we will bring a happy medium to all of this eventually. Right now, it's again at a shift where everybody wants to go back to office, but nobody's sure if this is going to work or that's going to work. So let's hope that it will bring a happy medium for everybody, and especially women as well. We've now got few questions, so I'll just ask. So Harshita Manjunath has asked one question. She's asking how to interview for roles where we may not have prior experience but do have interest. What's your take on that?
That's a very fantastic question, actually. And to be honest, I think I'll go back to my first statement that I made, that always raise your hand for opportunities which you want to do, but you do not have enough experience in. And that is what you feel, right? Uh, and I will tell one thing: do not go blindsided to the interview. Do not go to a place where you might come off as somebody who doesn't know anything about the subject matter, right? Um, do your research before you go. You may not know 100% of what's happening, and especially if you're preparing your resume to get shortlisted for that role, make sure that you look at the job description very well. Recruiters use this recruiters use a tool where they shortlist CVs basis the keywords, right? So make sure that you include those keywords in your resume, and this is just the shortlist. When you go for the interview and your resume gets shortlisted, you go for the interview. Uh, Understand the basics of what you are applying for, right? Even if you understand the basics, and by the way, the interviewer, if they are interviewing you, they will know within a couple of minutes whether you're actually experienced or not. So you cannot faff around a lot, especially if a person has experience in that particular role. So make sure that you understand the basics and talk about how you can utilize those basics in the role if you get it, and also how you are open to learning about more about it. Why does this interest you? Why do you want to change your field at this point in time, right? And are you ready to start from the bottom? Because today, if I'm going to go to technology, I should be ready to understand that I'm not going to be a leader there. I'm going to be somebody who's going to be following other people, understanding from other people. So I need to be open to that mentality. I need to have that mindset in place. So, throw around some keywords which make people understand that even though you have very little knowledge about the role, but you are ready to pick up things, you're ready to get trained, you're ready to pick up things. How fast a learner are you, and how fast can you pick up things? So that is another point that you can bring into the conversation. Talk about
There
projects
is a
if you're
follow.
already. Yeah.
Uh, um, Great. There's a follow-up question to this. So, one is when you are starting out, right? And when do you think a person is ready to become a leader? What are the traits that are required or identify you as a leader? Is there any specific answer to that? I'm just wondering from an HR perspective, what do you think is the key to that?
If you want to identify as a leader, or if you feel yourself that you're ready as a leader, then you should definitely start hitting those job interviews. And that's my advice to people there. Get a sponsor for yourself. You're already associated with an organization, and you know that the organization is going to have some roles in the leadership positions later, right? get people to advocate for you. And why I say that is because leadership roles are a lot about how people know each other in the organization, and doesn't matter if it's big or small. Everybody will talk about a certain person, and that certain person is going to get that role, right? So make sure that you advocate your strengths wherever you can. If you're talking to leaders, make sure that you're visible where you are. And if you feel that you're ready to be a leader, then make sure that you have those interviews. And I know this might be a little weird, but my honest rate is that go out and give some interviews, right? Go out and give some interviews and understand where you're lacking. Why didn't you get that particular position? I sometimes used to hound some recruiters just to give me feedback that, why did you not select me for this role? Because when you look at it from a third party perspective, it will give you a whole new view into what you're missing, and what you need to develop to become a leader.
I think what for me as a takeaway from our conversation and your, advice is that women need to definitely skill themselves. Women definitely need to also network and upsell. I think that was a major key takeaway, regardless if it's within the organization or outside, right? Which is the part I think women are shy about or don't do it completely, and we need to get them out there and advocate more of. These
Yes.
kind of sessions so that we are all there helping each other out and networking and advocating for each other, right? So
Yes.
I would just want to hear just last key advice for women out there, and then I think we'll close this. So maybe just one last couple words or last line in terms of what key takeaways women can take from you.
The only thing that I would like to say is, and I'll say it from a personal experience because it's worked for me quite a bit. And I'll say two things, Neha. One is, support other women at the workplace. Pull up a chair for them always, because the sisterhood needs to be stronger, because the brotherhood is already very, very strong at the workplace. And we need to advocate for more women. And only when other women leaders pave path for women is when we will actually reach. And we may not have to have these conversations in the future about reaching an equality in women leadership. And I hope to reach that phase someday, and I hope I'm alive to see that day here. The other thing is that, you know a lot of a lot of us as leaders, as women leaders, um, fail to sometimes acknowledge our mistakes. And let me be very honest, mistakes are very common. It happens to both men and women. Just that women fail to acknowledge or be accountable for their mistakes, because it makes them feel like they will lose whatever trust they have gained in the workplace. And things will just fall back, or it will become more difficult to survive. But that's not true. What I want to tell everybody here, especially people who are either going back to the workplace or aspiring to be leaders, if you know that you have made a mistake, admit to it, be accountable for it, and then correct it, right? Whether you have to talk to people about coming up with a solution, or you already know the way to correct it. Because people will not talk about the mistake, they will talk about how you went about understanding the mistake and correcting it. So change the conversation, and that's kind of dependent on you yourself, on how you change the conversation.
Great. That's so many valuable insights that we've got. And I think we have a whole lot of takeaways from here. And hopefully, the women who are listening will take key points from here and act. I think it's very important that we also act on it. We may take one step ahead. It could be wrong, but we need to take it. It's important that we take that step. There could be failures, there could be mistakes, there could be disappointments, but we definitely need to take that step ahead. So thank you so much, Shruti. It was lovely talking to you and having you with us here. We look forward to many more in future, and have a good day. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Neha. Thank you all for listening in. Have a good day.
Thank you.